Most people don't realize this, but the life they're chasing was never designed to make them free. It was designed to keep them busy. You wake up early, rush through your morning, spend hours working, come back tired, eat, scroll, sleep, and repeat. It feels normal because everyone around you is doing the same thing. But if you stop for a second and really look at it, something doesn't add up. If this routine is supposed to lead to freedom, why does it feel like you're slowly losing control over your own time? Think about the last time you had a full day to yourself without any obligations. No boss, no deadlines, no alarm clock. For most people, that's rare, and when it does happen, it feels almost unnatural, like you're doing something wrong. That feeling isn't random, it's conditioning. You've been trained to believe that your time belongs somewhere else, to someone else, and that your value comes from how many hours you can give away. The strange part is nobody openly tells you this. You're told to study hard, get a good job, be responsible, build a stable life. It sounds reasonable, it sounds safe, but what they don't explain is what that path actually leads to. You don't just get a job, you get locked into a system where your survival depends on continuing to show up every single day, no matter how you feel. And over time, that temporary phase quietly becomes your entire life. Look at how a typical day plays out. You wake up to an alarm, not because your body is ready, but because your schedule demands it. You prepare quickly, often rushing, because time already feels limited. Then you commute, sometimes for an hour or more, just to reach a place where you trade your time for money. Most of your day is spent there, doing tasks that may or may not have any real meaning to you. By the time you're done, your energy is gone, and whatever time you have left doesn't feel like real freedom. It feels like recovery. And yet, this is considered success. You're told that if you keep going, things will get better. Maybe a promotion, maybe a raise, maybe a slightly better lifestyle. But if you really analyze it, those upgrades don't change the structure of your life. They just make the same system a little more comfortable. You're still waking up to an alarm, you're still dependent on a paycheck, you're still trading the majority of your time just to maintain your lifestyle. That's the part most people never question. The system doesn't need you to be rich, it needs you to be consistent. It needs you to show up, follow the rules, and keep the cycle running. Because everything around you is built on that consistency. Companies need employees, banks need borrowers, markets need consumers. And the easiest way to keep all of that stable is to keep people busy enough that they don't stop and question it. This is where the illusion becomes powerful. It doesn't feel like control because it's wrapped in choice. You choose your job, you choose your lifestyle, you choose your routine. But those choices are heavily shaped by what you've been exposed to your entire life. You're not really choosing between freedom and the system. You're choosing between different versions of the same system. Think about education. From a young age, you're trained to follow instructions, meet deadlines, and work toward rewards that come later. Good grades lead to better opportunities, which lead to better jobs. It sounds logical, but it also conditions you to delay gratification and accept structures where someone else defines your value. By the time you enter the workforce, that mindset feels completely normal. And then there's money. Money is the center of everything, but most people only interact with it in one way, earning it. You work, you get paid, you spend, and the cycle continues. What's rarely discussed is how money actually grows, how systems generate income without constant effort, and how ownership changes everything. Because once you understand that, the 9-to-5 model starts to look very different. The truth is, the 9-to-5 isn't just a job structure, it's a time structure. It defines when you wake up, when you eat, when you rest, and even when you're allowed to relax. Your entire day is shaped around it. And when your time is structured like that for years, it becomes difficult to imagine any other way of living. That's why even people who feel stuck often don't leave. It's not just about money, it's about uncertainty. The system provides predictability. You know when you'll get paid, you know what's expected of you, and even if it's not ideal, it feels safer than stepping into something unknown. But safety comes with a cost. The cost is time, and time is the one thing you can't get back. When you spend most of your life working within a system that limits your freedom, you're not just giving away hours, you're giving away opportunities. Opportunities to explore, to create, to think differently, to build something of your own. And this is where the real shift begins. Once you start seeing time as your most valuable asset, everything changes. You begin to question decisions that once felt obvious. You start noticing how much of your day is controlled by external demands. You realize that being busy doesn't necessarily mean you're moving forward. Sometimes it just means you're staying in place more efficiently. This doesn't mean that working a job is wrong. It means relying on it as your only path is limiting. Because as long as your income depends entirely on your time, your growth will always have a ceiling. There are only so many hours in a day, and once they're gone, so is your earning potential for that day. That's why the people who eventually step out of this cycle think differently. They don't just focus on earning more, they focus on building systems that earn for them. They shift from selling time to creating value that exists independent of their presence. And that shift doesn't happen overnight. It starts with awareness. Awareness that the current model isn't the only option. Awareness that stability can sometimes be a disguised limitation. Awareness that freedom requires a different approach to money, time, and risk. The challenge is this kind of thinking isn't encouraged. It goes against the structure that most people are used to. When you start questioning it, it can feel uncomfortable. You might even feel like you're doing something wrong simply because you're stepping outside what's considered normal. But that discomfort is a signal. It means you're seeing something that most people ignore. The 9-to-5 illusion works because it blends into everyday life. It doesn't look like a trap. It looks like responsibility. It looks like adulthood. It looks like doing the right thing. And in many ways, it is. It provides income, structure, and a sense of purpose. But it also quietly takes control of your most valuable resource without you fully realizing it. So the real question isn't whether the system is good or bad. The question is whether you're aware of the trade you're making. Are you consciously choosing this life, or are you following a path that was laid out for you without ever questioning it? Because once you become aware, you can't unsee it. You start noticing patterns everywhere. You see how people spend decades working toward a retirement that may or may not come. You see how lifestyles expand with income, keeping people in the same cycle at a higher level. You see how little time is actually left for things that truly matter. And that realization can feel heavy at first, but it's also where freedom begins. Not instant freedom, not unrealistic overnight success, but the freedom to think differently, the freedom to explore alternatives, the freedom to make decisions based on awareness instead of habit. You don't have to quit your job tomorrow. You don't have to take extreme risks, but you do have to start looking at your time differently. You have to start asking yourself whether your current path is leading where you actually want to go or just where it's designed to take you. Because the most dangerous part of the 9-to-5 illusion isn't the structure itself. It's how easy it is to accept it without ever questioning it. And once you spend enough years inside it, questioning it becomes harder, not because it's impossible, but because it requires you to rethink everything you've been taught about work, money, and success. Most people never do that. They stay in the cycle not because they're forced to, but because it feels normal, because it feels safe, because it's what everyone else is doing. But normal doesn't always mean right, and safe doesn't always mean free. At some point, you have to decide what matters more to you, predictability or control over your own time, because you can't fully have both, and that's the part nobody talks about. The system will keep running whether you question it or not. The routines will continue, the expectations will stay the same, and the path will always be there waiting for you to follow it. But whether you follow it blindly or consciously, that part is entirely up to you. And once you see the illusion for what it is, going back to not seeing it becomes the hardest thing of all.